Good afternoon, cherished viewers of Fire Service TV. We appreciate you so much for tuning into Fire Service in Focus, and we are delighted to come your way live from our studios at the national headquarters in Accra, and also streaming live on our social media platforms at GNFS Official. Kindly give us a follow and help share the link to your friends and families to be part of today's conversation. This afternoon, we'll delve into a very critical topic, which is the trauma firefighters face when they are exposed to horrific events on the job. The trauma firefighters face when they are exposed to horrific events on the job. Firefighting is a really demanding and emotionally charged profession. And most of the times we tend to first look at the physical dangers that are associated with the job, whilst we forget other aspects, which is also really concerning and mostly does not leave visible scars for you to see. Yes, I'm talking about the psychological trauma firefighters face. So on today's show, we would be showing a documentary where firefighters would give their experience regarding this very topic. And just as anyone can be psychologically traumatized by being involved in a horrific incident or just by seeing the images on the internet or even at the scene. It's the same way these brave firefighters also get affected in the same manner. And this trauma is transferred to them, even though you see them going about their duties diligently at the scene. At the end of the day, they go back to their families and friends with scars that are not visible. So on today's show, we'll be showing a documentary, where they, share their experiences, and we'll also have a professional psychologist whom I'm going to formally introduce in a bit on the show to help us understand the effects of trauma on firefighters. And along the line, we would have the head of public relations department to also do justice to this very topic. This program is proudly sponsored by Blue Financial Services Ghana Limited, and they offer amazing packages to you and I. So you can do well to contact them on 030 396 8195, 030 396 8196, or you can WhatsApp them on 050 160 9958, 050 160 9958, and they are going to sort you out as soon as possible. This is Fire Service in Focus, and we'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll show you the video and the conversation will begin. Don't go anywhere. Stick and stay with us.
Blue Financial Services Ghana Limited, licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana to give loans and accept deposits. Open a fixed deposit account starting from 100 Ghana cedis and earn an interest per annum. Call 030-3968-196. Locate us at Matty House, HP Nyamete Street, Ringway Estate, Osu. Blue Financial Services Ghana Limited. Every step with you, trust in Blue.
I came across power safety technology. So I introduced that into our residents, who are more than 4,000. And over the period, they have testified how power safety technology have saved them when the need arises.
Power safety. Safety is our hallmark.
Welcome back, cherished viewers, from that quick commercial break. And if you just joined us, this is Fire Service in Focus, a program that comes your way every Monday at exactly 2 p.m. with the latest on our operations and challenges. And before we went on break, I introduced today's topic, which is the trauma firefighters face when they are exposed to horrific events on the job. and I indicated that I'm going to introduce my guests when we come back from the break. So I'll turn to a professional psychologist who is already seated in the studio, and he is a professional psychologist and at the same time the Chaplain General of Ghana National Fire Service, Reverend D.O.1 as well. I'm here. Sir, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Sir, so for today we are trying to understand the effects of trauma on our firefighters. You know, a lot of these firefighters go through a lot, and there are a lot of invisible scars on them which they don't, if they don't engage you or open up to you, you are never going to find out. So we've tried our best to engage them and get a documentary on their experiences, which we are going to show in a bit. But before we go into that, can you please explain what trauma is, particularly as it relates to firefighters?
All right, thank you. Trauma is used in certain fields like the field of medicine and then psychology. And so we will be talking basically about psychological impact of trauma on our officers. When you say trauma,
Yes.
it rings a bell of severe attack on the brain. So one is exposed to unfamiliar scene or horrific scene. Then that it can be an event or an experience. Your mental appraisal of that event will induce a response from you, the individual. Yeah. So the response can be intense, can be distressing and disturbing. Actually, as we discuss along, you get to know that it is not everybody that will be affected, either negatively, by being exposed to unfamiliar sins like dismembered bodies, charred bodies, and all that. So in short, you say that trauma is a response, psychological or emotional response to disturbing or intense events.
How is this different from regular job stress?
All right. You know, trauma and stress, I would say they are different things altogether. You know, stress, let's look at stress this way. That's in a regular place of work. You are working with somebody, it can be your boss, it can be a colleague, whose behavior is putting a burden on you. So any experience that you wish, you fight the person, but the law will not permit you, and you are in a closed place, or you feel like this thing, I have to run away from it. But because you have to get your daily bread, you have to be there. Now, that act of either pushing you to fight or to run away is inducing series of reaction within you. So the mind appraises an event as having an element of threat, pressure, conflict. It can be conflicting needs. Your child is sick, but you need to come to work. You are taking care of a sick parent or a child. Let me say a child. So you are tempted to be confronted with competing needs. It is tearing you apart. That is stress. Now, the trauma, as I said earlier, is like a hot metal that is being pulled through your brain. And I believe that as you go, so you look at it, stress can be a burden, it can be pressure, it can be a behavior of a colleague in an office. For example, if even I come to work early in the morning, I may be a Christian or maybe a Muslim fasting. Then in the same office, somebody open. It has been a regular feature of an officer in that office that he likes to, he's eating in the office. Okay. Remember that the food we eat, we acquire the scent for them.
Yes.
So let me use, for example, somebody from a different culture. His or her food has certain aroma that may be offensive to you. So in that situation, you are under stress. You feel like, let me fight this officer who is producing this offensive smell in the office. But because his rank may be higher than you, you can't fight the person. So you are forced to put up in that situation. That's a stressful situation. But the trauma is where the event is so distressing and disturbing. It can be chronic, it can be complex, it can be acute. If we want us to look further, we can look at the acute one, where it's a one-time event.
Okay. So you're just giving us the types of
trauma. Yeah. It's acute, okay. It's one-time event, an accident that you've gone to see. It's one-time event. Then the chronic can be prolonged. Okay, say you are in a house and you are often tortured, other rape cases and all other things that. Then the complex will come with multiple factors. Yes. But do you know that it is not the accident scenes alone that cause trauma?
Okay.
If I have a strong belief or my spirituality is to some extent, and I go to fire and I'm not able to rescue, I go home to tell myself that I have been a failure. So that is what we discuss as I say
complex.
It also comes complex.
Okay.
But it is something like emotional, we call it a moral injury.
Okay.
So moral injury, you have gone to fire sin, but you've not been able to perform according to your faith or something. Okay. So you go home to you now brood over guilt and shame. So rather that it is not the gory pictures that we see alone, but if you feel that, yes, I've not been able to save the child, I am the cause of the death of the child, you can also live throughout your life with guilt that will also be traumatizing you.
Okay, is it a case that sometimes, even when you are able to rescue somebody and they have been taken to the hospital, just by, thinking whether this child is going to survive or not, does it fall under them?
Yes. What I'm saying is that when you think that you are responsible for the death of that victim, that's where moral injury issue comes in. You feel that, if I were to have performed well, or if I've acted in a certain manner, this person would have been saved.
Yes.
So, well, basically, I'm submitting that the trauma we talk about is not about just the gory pictures you see,
Okay.
but if you feel, for example, let me tell you something that it can happen that you go to the field and you think you don't have, you've not been able to do what is expected of you. You go home with a feeling that I am responsible. So when the idea of I am responsible for what has happened drops in, then it takes you to a level of trauma. But you see, it is not just being at the scene alone. There's something we call secondary trauma. Okay. Even if you see it on the screen, or somebody comes to tell you, narrating the picture, just giving you graphic description of what has happened or what has transpired at the fire scene, you are likely to be traumatized and also go through the same experience as the incident responder has gone through.
Absolutely. So now that we've established the meaning of trauma and how different it is from regular job stress, now can we highlight the symptoms of it? Some people may be experiencing it but probably mistake it for something else. So can you give us early signs of trauma for firefighters?
Right. The reason why we even started this program through mobile counseling clinic. We went round, and even when we had this drivers training, I took time to explain to them exactly what you were asking me in a moment ago. But I believe that before we get to the symptoms, I want to establish that all of us would be subjected or be exposed to the same sin, depending upon other factors that, if time permits, we'll be talking about for the benefit of those in charge of dispatching people and placing people wherever they are. We need to establish one fact that it is not everybody that will suffer from the impact of trauma. No, it's not everybody. Sometimes it's good to even build resilience in the officers. But if you want to find out some of symptoms, you see, trauma affects every domain of life. It affects the psycho or social emotion, social aspects, behavioral domains of life. So if you should pick one night, if you constantly experience intruding thoughts and relive the experience as if it is happening now, then you are going through trauma. You are having the impact of trauma. I'm a bit hesitant to say that it's post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms you are going through now, because if you are subjected to any horrible sin of that nature, it is normal to have those thoughts about it. But when it exceeds 6 months going, that's how it is diagnosed as you having post-traumatic stress disorders. When after 6 months, you can't sleep disturbances, intruding thoughts, nightmares, and you are reliving the experience or any reminders of it. You relive the experience. So when all these things are happening to you, these are symptoms of, but I want to say that If this thing is within the 6 months, is the way your mind is processing the the horrible things that it has been plunged on the mind. You know, everybody has fundamental assumptions about life. So when the fundamental assumptions of life is shaken and you feel overwhelmed, so after 6 months going, then we can say that yes, you are now experiencing the post-traumatic stress disorders.
Okay. So, sir, earlier on, I had opportunity to speak with pre-firefighters who opened up on their experiences on the job, and they shared, deep stories that shed light on the emotional and psychological challenges they face when they respond to incidents. So, we'll quickly have that documentary. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. So, technical man, let's have the video now, the documentary.
My name is Station Officer Clotty.
Clotty. And you?
I'm Station Officer Bote.
So I have Clotty and Bote with me here today to share with us their experience with horrific events on the job in terms of firefighting and effecting rescue at incident scenes. Station Officer Clotty, I'll start with you. Can you share with us an experience where you encountered something very, very, very difficult, and how you're able to handle it?
Yeah, I could remember some time back, somewhere 2005. But then, we are just new, some few years in the service, and then we were called for an outbreak of fire at Tema Dry Dock. The things I can remember at that moment was when we got there, so many things have been destroyed already by the fire. And then there were these vessels there that we were told people were trapped in. So no matter how the situation, we have to effect rescue. So, firefighting and rescue at the same time. But one thing I saw that I don't think I can ever forget, there are a series of it, but I can share this one with you, where people were trapped in the vessel. Vessel, when you enter, there are some places where it's like basement, and I think they kept fuel there. So when the fire outbreak occurred, some of them couldn't come out. There were about, I think, 8 or so of them. Yeah. And after some time of firefighting, we have to bring these people out. Then we realized that the people were, they are burned beyond recognition. And I don't know, but that was my first kind of horrific experience. When you hold the person to bring them out, then the skin begin to peel off into your palms, and you realize that, well, what will be, because it has happened, and you are there to do whatever you are supposed to do. Now, when someone is dead, we don't confirm the person is dead, whether burned or not burned. We don't confirm whether the person is dead or not. So you have to do whatever it takes to bring the person out. But within you, you know very well that this person is far, far gone, because moreover, it's burned beyond recognition. But we have the feel like something can be done when we bring them out, because ours is to save life. So some of these things, when they happen, in fact, the trauma that you go through, it's a lot. And yet, like I was telling you, it is not one, it is not two. There's about 8 of them, 7 to 8 people down there that we have to bring out. So sometimes there are other experiences. Maybe
how did all this affect you psychologically?
Well, it's tough. Sometimes you feel like, asking questions. You wish you can get answers, but you will not get it from anywhere. Now you have to put your thoughts together, then answer some of them by yourself. Like, what really happened? What did I, or why they deserve this kind of thing? Sometimes you even come to the level of thinking that Is it a punishment? Is it for them to die, for you to see them this way? You understand? It's a whole lot. So sometimes you cannot even think well when because there are times you get flashbacks. These memories comes and on and on and on. Every incident and how you experience them and how they affect you. Sometimes we feel this is not right. But what can you do? The person is dead. You cannot confirm he's dead. You have to bring this person out. Who is the next person to confirm whether he's dead or alive? Now, after the incident, you have to, start thinking, this person I see dead, after the incident or when they are being carried to wherever, are they going to survive? Is somebody going to tell me that my effort was okay, my effort was enough? Were they being able to be saved? So it's a whole lot of things.
I'll come back to you. Also, can you also share your experience and how it affected you?
Okay, I quite remember way back when I joined the service in 2006. There was an incident. We went at Pokwasi Ablikuma Highway, and then this incident was something that put me down for about a week during work basis. And so what happened is that there was an accident, and then when it happens, the driver was trapped, but there was a certain lady in it that the tie just split into two. Looking at the flesh, the bone, and whatever, that was my first time seeing something like that. And so, to be very honest with you, I went off. Though on the incident ground I was there, but I was off. The soul, my spirit soul and everything was off. But because I was the most junior among them, and then my in charge was encouraging me that, hey, you say this, you're going to see more. So prepare your mind. So I realized that during this, you have to be your own psychologist in the first place. Secondly, if you don't have that endurance of being at that field, it means that you are going to go off. And that is basically what put me off. And for 3 days, when I went home, I couldn't eat, especially meat, for 3 days. I was there and it kept occurring in my mind. It kept occurring. So I realized that, Charlie, I will still keep on going on incident, being fire or accident or whatever. So irrespective of whatever, if I don't encourage myself and then work towards it, then it's going to bring me down. So far so good. That was the incident. But there are several of them that we've also seen that are very serious.
Also, for you also, he says that he motivates himself to be able to deal with incidents like this. That, no matter what, that's what he signed up to do, and he's going to see more of that. So he needs to psych himself up, and then going forward, he will prepare himself better, and then not get really emotional when he sees things like this. What about you? How do you cope with traumatic incidents like that?
It's tough because sometimes you feel like you need to talk to someone and you cannot get anybody to talk to. This one that I gave you, that was then. I have other experiences that till now. I remember when we are at the scene and a car ran into the scene. Another car ran into the scene. Now, you are in to save someone. You have to run for your dear life. Then you are still concerned about the person. So sometimes, like I said, people are different. The way they handle things. Well, me, for instance, I'm the type that I don't, take alcohol. So when that happens, I find it very, very difficult because there are times you can be in your room and you see these things like happening around you and you see yourself in the midst of the scene. You look around and before you know, you are in your room. There are times you forget to even put off your light. Not like you really forget, but you don't want to go in the dark. So you leave the light on Then again, you wake up early dawn, you forget. Then you ask yourself, how did this light came on? So it makes you feel like somebody was in the room or somebody came into the room to on the light. So dealing with these things, they are very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. I once spoke to my CEO because these things, you see it lightly, but they are not. After everything, we console ourselves like we are fine. Okay. But you are not. Yeah, you are not fine.
Going forward,
There are some of the things, okay, when
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Just have a moment. I'll come back to you. Yes, sir. Uh, so going forward, what do you think can be put in place to prepare you, like psychologically prepare you?
So basically, for me, like I said in the first place, I psych myself because this is not the first and this is not the last for me to do. Going forward, I think management, we need adequate training, basically on operational aspect, being it the RTC or the firefighting. We need more of training, adequate training that will equip us more, aside the equipment issues. Then aside that too, I think for the management, whenever we are on a mission, especially rescue bases or firefighting, we need their support. Support will not only come in terms of money. Sometimes when we see the officers there, it gives you that morale that at least you had people behind you. At times you go to fire scenes and then accident scenes. There are people who throw things at us. They say all sort of insults. Sometimes if you don't close your mind to work according to the way you come to work, you just do anything anyhow and then you come. So I think going forward, at least if management were able to at least give the operational men adequate training, and then for that matter, when we are going to a scene, at least not everything, but at least they should follow us to the incident scene so that in case of anything, at least. And then one thing that I want to say, whenever we are on the grounds and then we call on the police, normally we call the police through FMC. We are pleading, especially police and then ECG. They should work with us as brothers because sometimes you call them and then it will take a very long time, especially ECG. You can be there, you want them to do a cut for you to do your firefighting or whatever it is, and then they will be there for 2 hours, 3 hours, not showing up. Before you know, one person will come, show up, and then go, come back again. And you have to be there, wait for them to do their job before you continue with what you are doing. And so I think going forward, if management will be able to at least ascertain with some of these things, we will be very happy for that.
Right. I can no longer engage my brave firefighter who is sitting next to me because he's already teary just by, talking about his experience. And this experience had nothing to do with his family or friends. He was just, doing what he's mandated to do. And by so doing, this trauma is transferred onto him and it's affects him so much that when he talks about it, it is very emotional when he talks about it. So I think he has something to say.
you see, as I said earlier, we console ourselves after the scene. We shake hands, we tell ourselves that we have done well. But you see, what I was telling you earlier, I'm a rescuer. So I have to do more for my country. Now, imagine when you are at the scene, somebody is trapped and you are called. You always have to deal with the golden hour. And the golden hour entails a lot. So upon the golden hour, you get there, you have to do whatever possible, okay, to save at least lives. When properties are damaged, it is fine. But if you can save life, it is okay. Now, imagine when somebody is trapped. and the person you are trying to do something for is telling you now, if it is possible to even get rid of my leg, meaning cut off my leg where I am trapped because of the pain, so I can be saved. You can imagine. There are other things that maybe next time, if we should meet, we will talk about it a lot.
Right, right. He says he's a rescuer and he will continue to rescue victims during emergencies. I mean, it's really tough. It's really tough out there. So, would urge all, I mean, the general public that when we see firefighters at incident scenes, they risk so much just to give you support and ensure your safety at all times.
So,
So
cherished
please
viewers, we just
do
heard
all.
some deeply personal stories from our firefighters, shedding lights on the emotional weight they carry from incident scenes. And we still have more to show to you, but for now, we would turn to our professional psychologists, counseling psychologists, to help us unpack the effect of trauma for firefighters. So, we just saw, we just watched the video of firefighters sharing their experience. Generally, what's your overview of the whole documentary?
All right. Thank you. I think Station Officer Clote, to Clote, actually confirmed what we were saying. You see, issues of trauma is not a child's play. And I can say that these are some of the things that motivated me to go into this study of counseling psychology, become a counselor psychologist. These are some of the things. Because with my 24 years experience in the service, I realized that that aspect is what is lacking. But we thank God that now the current management is seriously working. That's I'm speaking now. We've assembled, I mean, about 14, I think about 18 to 14, 18 people, personnel who have psychology background, that the service will be trained in these areas to be able to be in all the regions. No, you see, there's something called critical incident stress debriefing, which must be handled by professionals, mental health professionals. But you see, they do it in another form. You see, when they come from the scene, they discuss it. But it is time that discussion is done under a mental health professional, what is a counselor psychologist. No, so the counselor psychology will be able to help them to assess the thoughts about the scene, the feelings, and then thereof, education, psycho-education will be provided. You know, as I was saying when the drivers came for the training, I think about a lot of them came for training school. These were some of the things chief officer now moved that is can be termed inoculation. So we are inoculating our operational men against certain. Now, you see, he was crying when he was reliving the experience. He said, even in their rooms, when he's in the room, he wouldn't like to put the light off because he will be seeing the dismembered and charred bodies around him. And that's the extent of trauma. Now, there are certain things he may not like to say, which we will be talking about, the coping strategies of people. And the coping strategies of people, when they are not trauma informed, will be crude one. They will be resorting to drugs or alcohol. So that's why I'm of view that if an operational man is in trouble with alcohol or that, he should be helped. because it is about going about his lawful mandate that he or she was crushed. And he thought that, see, when it's become over and over like this and it's not resolved or helped or not, individual is not equipped to handle the situation with proper coping mechanism, they will be using drugs, recreational drugs, and alcohol to numb the intruding thought. God, the thought can be disturbing, can be intense. And even if you smell that somebody is roasting any goat or something of the sort, you may relive the experience you encountered at the fire scene of the charred bodies. Throughout your life, that individual who cannot eat meat, because I've seen bodies of a human being bent like goats, and that's so to speak. Sorry to say that. So that individual, throughout his life, is not helped. Is in serious trouble. Because if you stop using the alcohol, the intruding thought becomes severe. And so how long is he going to use alcohol to resolve that problem? That is why this program that we are doing, as part of it, would let officers be aware what is that you are going through. To understand. Now, see, Africans and Ghanaians are notoriously religious.
Yes, that's true.
And normally it also works. They have herbs. It works for them. So after this thing, they are washed by traditionalists. And you see, the mind is said that if you have believed in this ritual, it works for you. That sometimes you have not dealt with the root cause of what is igniting the intruding thoughts. And that's how psychology comes in to help you deal with. This is a whole lot of grounding exercises that the individual can do. There's something we call the desensitization. It's a whole. There are therapies that are there to deal with those who are going to post-traumatic stress disorder related issues.
So professionally, what are some of the effective techniques that firefighters can use to manage trauma and make sure that it doesn't affect their daily lives?
I believe that first of all, we must have a system that will be able to fish out those who are vulnerable to experience post-traumatic stress disorders. First of all, an individual who has just suffered loss, can be loss of a spouse, loss of a child. That individual should not be made to go to these scenes. People with brain chemistries that makes them vulnerable. People who have childhood trauma experiences, if they will be sincere to themselves, should not be exposed to such things. Now, if you are to ask that how, it is through psychoeducation, what we are doing now, that it is normal to experience those intruding thoughts and nightmares over a period of 6 months. If it is 6 months, then it has become post-traumatic stress disorder that needs to be handled by professional counselors. And even in this area, it is not every counselor that can handle. They are professionals who understand what is happening and who have hands-on techniques that can be helpful to the individual. So it's not everybody at all.
Okay, sir. So these firefighters, they have families outside work. To what extent does that affect their family life?
That is another serious issue. Remember that the trauma causes an individual to be prone to anger.
Okay.
So, and sustaining relationship too. So the individual goes home, he's drunk, he's using the alcohol to numb the intruding thoughts. Now, if an individual's life is hooked on any form of drugs or alcohol, surely it's going to affect his or her finances. Is that not it? Then look at the behavioral aspect of it too. He can become unnecessarily angry. Slighter things that individual is annoyed. So he can beat people, he can slap, he cannot maintain healthy relationship. Are you with me? Yes, so trauma has a far-reaching consequences. No, even a point you can look at the person can lose his or her memory. Remember that I was saying that the trauma affects, it's like pushing a hot metal. So the path responsible for feelings, emotions, and memory over time is destroyed. You see, we are programmed in such a way that a point in time the body gives you alarm to run away. Is that not it? Now trauma affect that mechanism. So you always live on tenterhooks. You always live in extreme form of fear and anxiety. And remember that anytime an individual feels like, let me run away, but I cannot run away, what is happening in the body of that individual is terrible. Over a period of time, that individual can become vegetable. He cannot even remember his or her own name. So it has consequences on one's physical health, one's mental health. So a point in time that yes,
we'll come to that. We have the part 2 of this video that I want us to look at immediately. So let's have it now.
So I have on my immediate right, SO.
I'm Station Officer James Bondi.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And on my left we have
Edio Bruce.
Can you share with us some of the incidents where you went to the place and then you saw all sorts of incidents and how it affected you?
Thank you. You are on. Domona or fire service. Be about TV and be one be community or operational men say. What they see ne wana kake see ne ndwake ekule laije. Lole na accident. Chue kumo. Fe what all scene. Lele domona moro kabi you ne chuni to 34 solid years. Yeah, operations. One year what a fire ni aye wo kwa ekotomonima. Almost about 4 or 5 years ago, what any ma got I lanje beno shejeme amaka bagashi nye chechon eke abonte ke ni for middle chochon be koma mi wo network ni aketwa fast say wona live papa nji frequency we kula achewo be da ba achewo aka wo rough be da ba ka wo shoje traffic lane we block wo road ehin ke wo shejeme ke man bi ke wo chechon be da ba ka wo junction no akloche neke kanti ba ke nye wo se wonyo wona ne ke experience no ni chon bo ne yenima gota pepe ni market yo jeme je ni sin na bi market so mo chuko ye jeme ye gota e ko no wote bo nche esin to see when am from toilet ken chulawo mi ne wo chechon e ko maji wonu na ne ke na agba ne be ko ma mi le nko na ni lole na accident ke wo she jeme o ba na ke shi bone bale emi wa e ko le equipment problem ye e ko wo top go me ni ba wa wo be do wa ke wo ji o me wo tan le we fe problem ke mo go ngbo ni wo nye wo je ke wo je le wo tan ambulance po no ko ba ya be ko chota because jawo wa make my pick up no ke shwemi dan wo ya wona na agba wa nji fire service e ko mele unji no ke o ba wo che money go yo na beni Rollis regime beni plane na egbe hie wo ji me ni wote ni wa je me When I go where me when I go plane like a woman, I'm a aviation through the we for a shan or father operational men one na baba o when na gba o pafa ko dike man bi e boni am ka me here call me koklo me to ma call police akọ soldier ka ni bi man bi na me wa am wa fast service le una kan ko do wonya o ka chu no chumo ko ni ehi ye yura don
o fa na ni kene cheje ni na mamani ame gbogbo ikena kan ni bi te e affect your botin
lele na kan wana ka sande bi lo e bi sande ko be ko me wa yo cheje me question le bi man sa lo jogba be ko cheje me no ba ke o nyegbe la lele fast service no chumo la gbe gbeja no to ye hi o bana ke la ncho shije la pe chuo shiani la yo mi be ko me light ye me wole Ghana fam ko kra be dey use liga shika wote action wo boni experience me no wata chu he wana ke ogbe mita mo shasma e ken gbe se ajula wo mi illegal no wona atwi ko no ke gbe la because no ni server le ni service we machine work ba follow no ko no ba follow ba bon wo ibe no ba fo water wana ke sheko efit oni bi enfite bi ko mo ko po egbo o ba no wa wole ko ba shia ekule wan o chi fe no onye wo because o na ke shi susuma adamu no fast service no ba fe na bo jaboro ncho te ko ye o sofo ko alo ye o imam ko alo traditionalist jibo ejo te ni ateni ajuo yan bo e na fe gba wo na wo na gba ke je dem shi ake wo ka ge no ba tun wo wonye wo mi awo hin no wonye wo tun na kamaja ntumo.
So my boss here is saying that he's been in the job for more than 34 years and there have been issues when they attend incidents. Sometimes they are beaten and I mean they have stones thrown at them because they arrive at the incidents late. And sometimes when they get to incidents like accidents and they have to get the body, extricate the bodies to and hand over them to the police, they do that and after a week they are not able to sleep, they are not able to eat, and are not able to do certain things, and they would have to sort for help from traditionalists and pastors and other people to be able to deal with this traumatic scenes at incident scenes. So that was my boss here who was sharing some of his experience with traumatic events on the job.
And one time went to accident at this place on Casa Road. A certain lady was coming. I don't know either he's drunk or something. I don't know what has happened, and we drift off from the road and had an accident. We had to remove him, and all the head has broken. You can even see inside the head. Actually, when I came home, it affected me a lot. I can't eat. I can't even, when I go to bed, I can't even sleep. So we passed through a lot for emergency. When you go, you come. It affects us. I know I'm a Christian. When I pass through things like this, I pray to God that the Lord should give me the strength to be able to take all those things or take it out of from me. So I pray to God, and actually the Lord have been helping me for all these years.
Because me no problem because I can no go be shekule no go ye. Because te onyo wo kwa oni kokon ne ya wa body neke wa body efte no wule neke. If I take me 2 weeks kokon de to go na fe body estent yodi. Ne kule no onyo fe no go. Wo na kaji body wo be kwa imams ni kwa ma sole ame abo. Eke domo na eke nyungo domo na eke ni bashi.
Edio Bruce just said that in moments like that or in times like that, because he's a Muslim, he mostly resorts to his imam to help.
So viewers, he just saw part 2 of our documentary on the effects of horrific incidents on firefighters and how they are able to manage trauma when it happens. So, we just saw part 2 of our documentary. What do you have to say about that?
All right. I think it's just re-emphasizing the experiences that the firefighters go through as part of executing their mandate. And as I was saying that how in this part of our world people deal with trauma. That's what Allergy Bruce has just bring to the fore. For now, the fire service has set up a counseling department. And these things will have to be handled. But the officers should, as we talk about what this trauma is all about, they can no longer use crude method in resolving it. They can walk to the counseling department and have a talk with, if it's happened that we need to even go extra miles to bring experts from outside. Of late, we have brought experts from outside to even talk to us on these issues. And even Ghana National Fire Service has gone into agreement with a consortium called Mind Help. We agreed, management has approved that henceforth they will help us in dealing with other complicated issues when it's degenerating into mental health issues that needs a level of, we have people to help us. So officers, I believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg, because we just talk to people in headquarters. The accident prone areas like those in the Swum Eastern region, those in the Ashanti region, especially those around Winneba. So in most of my presentations, I talk about doing away with crude methods in resolving traumatic related disorders. You know, when Alaji said that, Bruce said that, it pray with the people. Yes, prayer works. When especially your faith, because the prayer will work on the brain, that there's a higher power that can take away that disturbing thoughts. So prayer works, but we cannot rely on prayer alone. In the first place, I believe that the personnel must be inoculated against these trauma. First of all, it simply means that they are given trauma-informed care. So if you go to the scene, especially one, you must know that if you, the individual, is going through grieving can come in so many forms. If I'm an officer that have my house, everything is burnt or destroyed, I lost a close, significant order in my life, you must be able to tell your officer in charge that this is what I'm going through. Are you with me?
Yes.
Not until you have dealt with your loss and coming out, if you expose yourself to such things, the tendency that you will develop post-traumatic stress disorder is very high. So if I say you develop post-traumatic stress disorder, you now depression can set in, anxiety will set in, substance abuse can also be there. So you realize that when one is depressed, the individual is always withdrawn. So for example, if you have officer, operational man, who either two was very forward, he can come, he will talk, and all of a sudden is withdrawn, it's a sign of his going through this experience in this post-traumatic stress disorder, because he's depressed. Now he will even lose appetite. He can't eat well. You can't sleep well, and this will also would in turn have effect on your physiological your health.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, this is still Fire Service in Focus, and we are still discussing the trauma firefighters face when they are exposed to horrific incidents on the job. And we've had documentaries where firefighters have shared their experiences on the job and how it has badly affected them in their lives. And you can be part of this conversation. Our phone lines are open. You can reach us on 050 960 8744. I repeat, 050 960 8744. Phone in, share your experience, your contributions, and questions if you have any. And our professional counseling psychologist will do his best to answer those questions for you. So, before we had the second video, you mentioned mental health. What are some common mental challenges firefighters face due to trauma on the job?
All right. Once we have not been able to do any scientific research, it will be difficult to place a finger on, say, this is a common mental health issues. But if one is exposed to chronic trauma, as I said, it's a prolonged experience. You've been going to meeting it and you are not resolved. You can be depressed, and this sometimes is seen even in the dressing of some of officers. And that's why I'm saying that if an officer, even way of dressing, he has not ironed his dress, his way of talking, shouting, this should not attract punishment. But it's the officer who superintend over such subordinates must see it as symptoms of the trauma that these noble men and women face as we go about our daily responsibilities, saving lives and properties. You know, when I joined the fire service, I had experienced that that I lived with, and that made me to pursue this path that has brought me here. You know, there was incidents that you go fire scene for a year, a car loaded with cassava dough, women from markets in the whole area. Barefoot got bent, and a woman with the baby like this holding the baby got bent. That scene, I could not sleep.
It's horrific.
Very, very horrific. Could not sleep. Over time, it faded away. I knew. Over time, it faded away. So I believe that others would have said, so what happened in Israel when we were kind of giving orientation, say, when you see any horrible thing of this nature, when you take any alcohol, you clear that away from your system. I was asking myself that, how can you clear such a thing from your brain? Because the thing has gotten to the mental, it is in your brain. And even when you close your eyes, you can still see how the mental pictures clear, even when your eyes are closed. There was an accident that a custom officer was going to share and was going through whole area, Mache area, was standing down, and this man got accident. The head opened. Sorry? You went there, went to the scene. I saw that thing. So many years, I could not eat meat and all that things. Wow. So what firemen go through, operational men go through, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And this is how we need to call on the citizenry. half of management or government, everybody is doing his part. But at all levels, we must also do well to speak. These things we are talking about here is a step one of addressing the problems personnel go through. It's step one. Through this education, but that's not we will still go rounds. Because I started last year, I went almost all. It left with about 3 regions in the north that have not been, to basically talk about these things, to give them a first-hand understanding of what it means, so that you not use wrong antidotes for what is happening to you. But you know that if this is happening to me, this is the right way to go, to see a counselor. And as I said, it is not every counselor that can deal with such. It is a complex phenomenon that needs to be handled by a professional.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, sir, on this note, we'll have the final part of the documentary. But before we do that, I'll read a few messages from our Facebook platform. And we have this from Bozax James, and he says, great job from the Fire Service TV. And then we have this from Noah Selom. He says, thank you, Ghana National Fire Service. And then this one from Abdul Martin. He says, this is very educative. Thank you very much. And then we have this from Ayonu Thomas, and he says, firefighters, especially in Ghana, need a lot of psychological support. I humbly suggest the management ensure that there are trained psychologists at all levels, focusing on HQ, the headquarters, and regional levels will not be enough. Thank you very much, Ayonu Thomas, for your contribution. We have this from Bright Ade, and he says, good work. Keep your comments coming in, and I'll do my best to read them as the program progresses. We'll now have the final part of our documentary, and then we'll continue with the conversation.
Mekai Bakubi, Yakwa Tutu. So that time, I'm going to rescue artists in a starting. Ntini ye busy or airport. Nti on frɛ ahomakye bɛyɛ 1 ɛne yɛ fee airport ɛde kɔ tutu. Mra yɛ kodu hɔ no nyame anim no kura. Yɛkɔtoo papa baako ɛne ne yere. Edu hɔ na abɔ bɛyɛ almost 3. Kɔfiti airport kɔ tutu no na nyɛ kwan ketewa. That time no mo yɛ road construction no. Yɛkudu hɔ mo de akɔhyɛ trailer bi echi. Nti utumi sɛ car n'anim ni nyinaa akɔhyɛ trailer no ase. Automatically na edu hɔ ne deɛ. Me ma dwene mu no na menim sɛ ɔmo wɔ nkwam. But per my officer in charge information na you make effort to do baby no obeka gen say apiedu nyabotre nipa no won ewu ewie the time no omo kan omo wie na that time no so ye me first time am who say serious accident na o machin to ka sa kire me ni gina odi na mka gen say mpanche on twen the equipment na me kita no na me de ma yen driver baako mka gen mpanche o me ba tumko gina baby bompa sana bisambe sum to obeka kire me say me nya abotre na nipa no ne asi no enya asi ewie nti me enhwe na yemfa bibi foforo emeka yen problem na yekita no ye make sure say be yi omo in peace nukro wonyame ani me fiwa ye be du fie no menya ni easy because na me hu obi ne yira omo nyina omo nya accident yen confirm say obi ewu but utie ni aye ko hu ye ne ya tie ne de na sa de ni si no ache ni fiwo na ye ban nukro wonyame ani me ko du fie Satan no so ensem bebre eduan bia wode memem bia miti baako miti bia mame me okay na ma anum nsu saa na ye bisa me say den na koso nzo bibia e fine bisan ko baako bi wo tema motorway trailer a load cement from Gasem e dia be share ashama under bridge no trailer ne dia be shemti the whole of 800 bags of cement, you know, ni nyina gu bridge no inside ɛna head of trailer no ɛno na ɛkɔpem yɛn nti cement no nyinaa bɛgu nipa no so nti yi cement no nyinaa na afei de aka sɛ yɛbɛ spread a yɛbɛnya body no yɛkɔdu hɔ no ɔmo yɛ nkɔnso ɔmo nwuyɛ nti nokura wɔ nyame anim yɛyiyi ama baako bɛduru me nsɛm sei mekita no ɔhome mehu sɛ ɛhome no nyinaa kɔ n'akyi na muso gye ne ho ɛhome no ma bio saa time na ambulance hɔ na meka kyerɛ mo sɛ yɛbɔ mo yɛde ma wɔ mo na meka kyerɛ officer in charge ade wei na mehu wɔ inside wode ne aka no ɔmo nto aso bebree na yɛhu na sɛbe ɛnyɛ ne nyinaa na yɛbɛka nti edu baabi na nipa ayɛ biribi ne accident na sɛ wokɔ incident na obi ka biribi kyerɛ wo ne ade a wohwɛ nea wohu a sɛbe mpanyinfo sɛ nipa nsɛ hwee na yɛde bi ahyɛ yɛn ntim ne ayɛ koom.
Yes, the incidents are many. If I say I have to recall of them, we wouldn't finish. But you see, every human being, the first time in your life is the experience that you have is the one that affects you that much. Like he said, the first time RTC came to Ghana, we went to some training. I was in Volta region. I think it was 2007, 2008. So, you know, freshly trained personnel, we were there just between the fire service headquarters and the whole waterworks. There was this tipper truck that is carrying sand that has broken down. So these 207 they said they were coming from Kumasi with goods to the whole market. I think every Wednesday or so is a market day. So they didn't see. By the time the driver realized the truck was in front, so the car went under. So as they call for the incident, you know, rescuers, you people have gone for the training, so go and do the rescue. When we went, I think they made the driver and 3 women. The car had gone under the tipper truck, so you can imagine how it is. We couldn't do anything, so we have to try and pull the 207 Benz back. We did bring it back, and the scene was horrific. The lady's legs has broken, the mate's head has burst with the eye bulging out, and the driver has been trapped. Now, there is the way the driver was shouting, there is this agency for us to rescue, and the pressure too from the public too that are there that we should hurry and rescue the people. It was not easy. And that time too, I think it was drizzling, and the blood was just flowing with the water. The scent alone, you can't stand it. We did our best to rescue. During the rescue, we had some cats. We didn't have gloves in our hand. We had some cats. And at that time too, I think HIV/AIDS2 awareness was being created. So after the rescuing, we took them to Old Trafalgar and we went to meet people there. When we reached there, it wasn't an easy thing. The way they were shouting, we have broken legs, broken arms, head that has passed open, and with the blood on our, when we came back, I can perceive the scent as I'm speaking to you right now. And because of that, I have not had HIV test because I'm afraid. Because that maybe that blood, that color I have, and those blood, if I had any of them have, maybe I might have gotten it. So if they mention HIV test right now, you see me shaking.
That's how bad it's affected you psychologically.
Yes, it has affected me. Not only the blood aspect of it, but even the blood scent and how the people were shouting. And the driver's assistant, the mates, even passed away. Even all the effort that we put in. So when we came back, you know, I couldn't even eat meat for some time because you see the flesh, just like the way you've killed cow or goat or something. That's the way it was like, and the blood and everything. It wasn't an easy thing. And one to that I can remember is the gas explosion at Trade Fair. That one have been transferred to Trade Fair Fire Station, and you see people bent lying down like goats. More than 10, you walk over them, picking people. It's not easy. It's not easy. You see, sometimes we go through all these things. I can mention a countable number of incidents. We try and go through all these things, but then when something happens, or maybe you are not able to do something at a particular time, and people chastise you, or which is not fault of ours, it's bad. it also affects our moral. You know, sometimes our senior men that I heard will tell you, oh, this is the job, that's what it is, you go over it. Some will tell you, go and take something, drink your head off. By the time you come, okay, and maybe through counseling, they will tell you, oh, it's part of the job, you say these things, but that's what the job that you be employed to do, that's the calling that you've answered. So you should go through with it, and it will be. And sometimes we try to stay around friends or colleagues who have gotten that experience. They talk through you, then they'll tell you what they did or something. Then we just come over it. But it takes time. It does not go overnight. Yeah.
Also, my member also inti ohwe na ma mufumu a I affect mo no mo hwe o feel say say ye dey nyama bin tonton na like I prepare me for incidents like that so that we do I say we will be that and I dey wakasa nti house
me madwin mu no de per rescue no it is say individual differences because you nipa ni bi wa moja po on person obi mu moja it say moja within 3-5-10 minutes scent ni different and obi wo crash immediate no be scent no cramp no nyame amu obe collapse nti to me ni there enye obi a na it say ye man join rescue especially fire no in particular operational duties because psychologically no enye easy obi hu bibi na eti da ha obi atrap baby obi ramp no atam body no pieces e dey say na so ni sa akoma na obi eden nti enye obi a bebre ni na yehu but enye ni na obetuma ka ho asem esan say ba ko bi a yekọ nyame cheja nshin say yedu wono ne ebe ya ni na yaye but per the space I thought that tipper drivers ni bi wo mo chain ni na manema wo cars no nti se tipper no car no e ko hye echi ni ade na ebunda end of the day no on person mo pull ni critical space because your machines need 2 minutes ni ma mo small time no mo de aye e say kwan ni be mani etuma ramp ni eyi nipa no ni ebesi wo no esi dada ntenu ane say yen so ye benya hu aboto obi bam ono ne nti ase ba wo ti ase no so kan no nti a no wagya no we hand over ma police ni ba omo ka no ye ko ba ko bi wo sphinx ye du wo no guys na wa around no ye de mo ba ya from mo che if you quarters ni ko sphinx enye kwan kitwa traffic nti du wo na e ba no sana mo ka che ye microphone ba ko ziu hwenanim ka che police no arrest no nti within some short minute ye rescue driver ni wie no padi no ye ni ba bi ofa wapa ni ba bi afa no kan ye de mintumi nka so ata nti rescue ni in particular na nkasa de any operational duties na mu yedin enye easy emu yedin.
First of all, say rehab. We have to have a rehab center that after every incident that when we come, we go there for rehabilitation. We should have psychologists for sections after incident. You see, I have gone through many experiences in fire service, from collapse, burns, and what have you in fire scenes. You see, so sometimes I do ask myself, why is it that always and when we go, you see, we can't say because of that you will not work, but when you are given that moral or the psychological aspect that this is the job you want to do, you can understand it better. We went to fire at Cable and Wireless. That was 2002. In the night, around 12, we were fighting the fire. But for me, I think my whole crew would have gotten injured. We established this rubber recycling center. So we fought the fire at some time. I told them, oh no, the wind direction and the water we are throwing, we are not making impact. So I want to go and assess, come back. So as I spoke to the one handling the branch and my officer in charge, Jeffrey Mbia, I just took 2 steps forward, not knowing there was a pool there that we thought is water, not knowing this plastic that has melted like water and acids. I just stepped into it, just about 10 seconds, and I jumped back. And if I should remove my shoe for you to see, you will see. When I came back, I said, but why me? Why should I go? Why should I get injured? There, you see. So it will echo in my mind, and the next time when I'm going, I have to be withdrawing back. And the impact of that injury and what it has done to me now. I have a permanent scar and some medical conditions now. And during that period, my children were even not coming because the 2 legs has been bandaged. My wife even don't sleep with me on the bed because she said she might hit me or something. The sad aspect too is you see, you were a married man, your wife is there, something beautiful you can't touch. You see, when I'm sleeping, I sleep like Ronaldinho. I have to be moving the leg round. When I feel comfortable, then you leave it there because it's painful. Because of that, I've gotten BP now. I didn't have, but during the time of the injury, when you are going to dressing and things, and how people react around you, especially your own children, it's traumatizing. You see, and sometimes you get the flashbacks from when you sleep. You hear the talks and the things that you did. Could I have done this? Why didn't I go here? Why didn't I do this? So we need a rehab center, and we need psychological centers that when we come, we go there after incident because you see something that you've not seen before. Yes, you've seen something that you've not seen before in incidents, especially in rescuing. So I think this measures when.
Well, so viewers, that was the final part of our documentary, and these episodes we just watched on Fire Service in Focus today goes a long way to tell us how emotionally challenging this noble profession is. So, on this note, we'll take Dio's thoughts on the final aspect of the video, and he would wrap up with his final words for us. Say.
All right. I believe that what we are doing now is part of resolving the issues that we are confronted with as a service. Nobody should think that this issue can be handled only from headquarters. No. So if, as Ayonu said, management is not folding its hands, what we are doing is part of it. And as I said, the inoculation process, we started long ago. And going round. And also, names all over collected will be trained. Because every region should have a professionally trained counseling psychologist. Because what we are talking about is not just about 2 weeks program to be able to handle these things that people are going through. And what it's not rehab. Rehab will be for those who are into drugs and this as a result of whatever. But we need mental health professionals that will assist in critical incidents, stress debriefing. Now, what is it that we can do for now? Is that one, the leaders at all levels should be able to pick the early signs and not use unnecessary shouting on the people, but see how they can help in referrals. So the organization I'm talking about, Mind Help, they will assist and train people, train these heads. It can be operational leaders, watch leaders, so they will pick the early signals and then report for professional treatment. Now, what is very important is that social support is very important. It's one of the things we can do to resolve these trauma-related issues. What is the level of intimacy between you even your family. So if an individual has a very disorganized family arrangement and is going to see those, his condition will be worse, because you need to talk to people. Even the more you share, like what the officer said, if they come after the decision, they have this peer review, they talk about it. So whatever you talk about it over time, the impact lessens. But when you come, you have nobody to talk to, and you are quiet to yourself, it will eat you up. So we must encourage that. People must cultivate healthy social support. Now, fire personnel world over, the term used, bravest, we don't take cover. No, your knowledge makes you brave. But if you don't have knowledge, your bravery is what? Stupidity. It is our profession, is our knowledge that makes us brave. So when we say bravest, we don't take cover. We are basically saying that we know what to do best when all others are running away. But when it comes to seeking for help, it doesn't come in at all. It is not a sign of weakness to seek for help. So on this TV station, I'm saying that if any officer is experiencing what you talk about, including thoughts, nightmares, becoming easily provoked and becoming angry, you can't sleep well and all that, you need not to say, I am brave. No. Bravery comes in with the level of knowledge you have to be able to know what to do best when all others are running away. But when it comes to you having disturbing thoughts as a result of what you have seen, no, there's a way out. So we need to encourage debriefing, peer debriefing after the scene, talk about. So if the officer in charge sees that this person is trying to avoid, now, as soon as the bell is sound or whatever, alarm, this individual who is traumatized, or the heart will beat. So it's all we're talking about hypertension and other things. It's very, very easy if you were not able to deal with the issues around this trauma. But I believe that as we talk about it, people will see the need, one, to seek for help. It is not a sign of weakness to seek for help. Trauma is rare. It is not everybody that will also experience trauma. Trauma sometimes strengthens officers. So a lot of experienced officers, they can go to see those things and they will come all right. But those who have issues, certain basic mental health vulnerabilities, are not to go there. You see, the officer said that, Apiedu said that, yes, it is not for. He's right.
We need to be.
Yes, so that's if you have an issue that borders on grief, or you, the individual, you have gone through intense childhood trauma experiences, there are a lot of departments you can work and work well. So I believe my final words is that trauma can have negative impacts on us, but the same trauma can strengthen us as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Viewers, that brings us to the end of today's show on Fire Service in Focus. And I believe that you've learned about the emotional challenges firefighters face at incident scenes, and it's really important that we support them. And a big thank you to our firefighters for opening up to us and sharing their experiences. And also a big thank you to our professional psychologist who also doubles as the Chaplain General of Ghana National Fire Service, Reverend DO1 Ezra Ami here for guiding us through this episode. And a big thank you to you out there also for joining us and making sure that you're part of this conversation. Before I go, I would like to, elaborate on what my boss said. Remember, trauma is something no one can face alone. So by raising awareness and creating a culture of understanding and support, we can all contribute to a healthier and a stronger community of first responders, including the Ghana National Fire Service. Thank you so much, and until next time, take care and stay safe.